This Quarkcast podcast is brought to you by the Outsiders Banquet. They told you that your doubts made you broken. But what if your cracks are actually where the light comes in? It's a story about the kind of grace that doesn't demand you hide your scars. It's grace that transforms them into something golden. The Outsiders Banquet is about becoming whole, not staying the same. Come, join us at our table. The Outsiders Banquet is available now on Amazon.
Welcome to the Unbelief Podcast, your journey, actually our journey together beyond inherited beliefs to a spirituality that works for you. I'm your host, Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. We can fix that later, right? No? Welcome to the Unbelief Podcast. I am here today with Richard Riccardi. He is the author of The Wandering Worshipper, a reluctant churchgoer's journey to belonging, and visited 33 houses of worship in 1 year and became deeply involved in a church community where he now serves as a deacon. Welcome, Richard. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Well, it's great to be here, and thank you for having me, Jeremy.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the book. Like, what's it about? How did it come to be?
Sure. Well, essentially it was, I'd always have been a person of faith, and I had a belief in Christian belief, and actually a cradle Catholic, but I was an entirely uninspired and irregular churchgoer. And so finally, after I decided I'm going to put church to the test, is going to church something worthwhile?
Right.
And in order to do it, there's no magic to the methodology. I said, well, you know what? I got to keep it interesting. If I go to the same song and dance every week, I won't make it. So I said, now I'm going to go every different place I could imagine, not only within my denomination, not only within my faith, but other faiths.
Great.
And so whether I went to the mosque, the Jewish temple, the Radha Krishna temple, the Baha'i temple, all these places I went to in search of what church meant. Yeah. And I was totally transformed. Now I am always and passionate and able to say there's a place for everyone and everyone needs a place.
Yeah. No.
Because of the powerful communities that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. And
they can have, perhaps.
Yeah. In a previous administration, the Surgeon General actually pronounced that there was an epidemic of loneliness. And one of the groups that he called on to be a part of the solution was faith communities, because just exactly like you said, the faith communities can serve as an incredible source of relationship and combating loneliness, but they can also produce some trauma, right? To be clear. So tell me a little bit about, I'm thinking you listed a bunch of different faith communities. I'm sorry, a bunch of different faiths. Tell me which of those really stands out. Which was the one that, you've never been to, never thought about, and you showed up at their place of worship?
Yeah, I would say probably the Baha'i.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons. First of all, because who knows anything about Baha'i? I actually had gone to a Baha'i temple in Delhi, India, but that's the only exposure I had. So then I go to this church and I show up, and there's just a very few people there. And it was the most technologically least advanced. Most places have a lot of great music and worship. Right. This guy had an iPhone, pulls out the iPhone and plays a song on it.
Okay.
And what was very fascinating about the church, and I still probably don't understand it, of course, is that everyone there one said, I'm Lutheran, one said, I'm Muslim, one said, I'm Hindu. But really what they were saying is that's what we were. Now we're part of the Baha'i faith. And what the Baha'i faith is, again, I'm not a theologian, very loosely, they would say it's an evolution of all faiths. And so this is now today's faith, which incorporates and came from all of these faiths. And what I actually mentioned in the book is that if you're one of these people who dislike because all the faiths are at war with each other, right, or portrayed as being at war with each other, the Baha'i faith may be a great place to start, where you see a lot of interfaith harmony. So that was a very surprising revelation.
Yeah. And, I think one of the things that is really interesting about Baha'i is that sort of emphasis on the unity of humanity and sort of the oneness of God. And I think this, and maybe this is me mischaracterizing it, but I feel like they see it as sort of this evolution, right? That Baha'i is this evolution. What's next in religion as we become a globalized community, and famously, Dwight Schrute is Baha'i. So okay. he wrote a book about faith recently. So what did you get out of that worship experience?
Just, necessarily at the Baha'i church, that particular worship experience, I can't say anything that I walked out of there that really changed my life. It was more just the community and the structure they had and the welcoming nature that, of course, they were extremely welcoming to me and were very excited to have me and wanted to share their faith with me. So as much as any tenant, though, as you said, it's an evolution of faith, and it really is very much grounded in peace and love and acceptance of others. And as I kind of took this journey, if I had to now encapsulate my faith, now I'm clearly Christian, but what faith means to me is that once you accept God's love for you, it transforms you and turns you into a lover of all.
Yeah. I love that way of thinking about it. Now, you said you were a cradle Catholic. So if you were going to 33 different denominations or different worship experiences, I'm sure you went to some things that were sort of the polar opposite from Catholicism. Did you go to any really charismatic churches?
Yes, certainly. So I chose without regard. I just went any place.
Right.
And so one of the types of churches I went to were Christian churches with entirely Black congregations.
Okay.
Now, many people call them Black churches, and I don't want to deny anyone their culture. The culture, It is a Black church culture. But there's a real reason why I say what I did. Is because where I was most different, I was most welcomed. I went to 3 of those churches. They pulled me out of the parking lot when they saw me. I was there early. The pastor came and grabbed me and pulled me in out of the parking lot and said, "Come on in, let me tell you about the church." Powerfully, I met someone before the church service, a young man. Then it was time for services to begin. I went and sat by myself on this empty row. That young man came on over and said, "Wait, you're here in our church. I don't want you to sit by yourself."
Oh, wow.
At another church, I was hugged. They didn't know me. Of course, they knew I didn't belong because of the complexion of my skin, or presumably, apparently I didn't belong. I was hugged and kissed more times than an Italian family reunion. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, and so coming from a Catholic background, when people are dancing, falling down, all of that kind of stuff, how do you process that? Like, what was that experience like being in such a sort of polar opposite?
Yeah. So now I didn't go to anywhere they, fell down and rolled on the aisle, and holy rollers in the aisle, but it was certainly a much more boisterous worship experience. And I was the old Catholic that I just like a couple of stanzas and just with an organ and real simple. But then I came to a realization about what the whole worship experience is about. It's that stretching before you exercise. It's warming up. It's getting lathered up for the sermon. It's opening your mind. It's getting yourself receptive and in a spirit to receive the word.
Yeah.
And in fact, if I can just want to continue on about the Black church experience, and not to, jump to the end, but when it was all said and done, after 33 churches, it came down to 2 churches, both Christian churches, one with a South Asian Indian population, and one with an entirely Black population.
Wow.
And I alternated weekend to weekend in my second year, like the child of divorced parents, going back and forth. And finally, something Providence said to me, "Your home is at the church with the Black congregation."
Oh, wow.
So I became the first white member of my church.
Wow.
And now more of us have crawled underneath the fence. But let me tell you about something that can happen at church if you're at the right place.
Yeah.
So a few months after I joined, it's Black History Month. Mm-hmm. So I happened to send the pastor some writings I'd done about Charleston, South Carolina, slavery, plantation homes, racism. Mm-hmm. He calls me up and says, "Oh, this is all great." He goes, "This Sunday, you get on the stage with me for Black History Month and you talk about these things to our congregation."
Oh my gosh.
So just a few months after I've joined, here's the middle-aged white guy, gets up in front of everybody and talks about it. Wait, it was entirely well received.
Yeah.
No one kind of I'm sure some people may have batted an eye, but really that in this environment, it was entirely okay. I like to say, and I don't want to be arrogant, so I don't say they're related to me on a higher level. Maybe it's a lower level, but on a foundational level, we're just all children of God. You're one, we are. And so welcome, here you are. This is your home.
Go ahead.
It was funny because my mom, I was a cradle Catholic. And so I told my mom I was doing this journey and she said, "That's fine. But just remember, your soul is stained with the mark of Catholicism." So no pressure or anything. Well, we all know how stories take a weird turn. My mom, mobility declining. I had to find a place to incarcerate her for the rest of her life. And so happened to be in assisted living across the street. So I said, "Now, Mom, you can go to church," because she could only roll. She couldn't even get in and out of her car.
Right.
Boom, I take her to church. The first few times she cries. "This ain't my people. This ain't my service. This ain't my religion. This ain't my music. It's not, this ain't me." I'll tell you, in about 5 weeks, she had a conversion that Billy Graham never did.
Yeah.
She fell in love with the church. The church entirely embraced this immobile woman who didn't say more than a sentence at a time. After every service, it was a scene out of The Godfather on the occasion of his daughter's wedding. She was mobbed by 20 people, never less. When I was out of town, 2 ladies came forward and said, "Richard, you travel a lot. When you're out of town, you tell us we're going to pick your mom, take her back and forth to church. She's not going to be alone when you're out of town. She's not going to be denied the church experience."
That's amazing. Wow. What a beautiful community. One of the words that you've used multiple times is accepting, like how accepting churches can be. And I know that, one of the really important issues for me is, as a queer person, the being accepting of queer people, right? At all the levels, and finding churches that do that. And so, I'm curious. Tell me a story about a queer affirming church that was part of your 33 church roundtable.
Yes, I will. So visiting my kids in Chicago, and I look up and there's an LGBTQ church. So I said, well, I'm going to go. Well, I walk in and I was worried for a second because by looking at them, I couldn't tell what letter of the alphabet they were.
Right.
In fact, they look like me or I look like them. And I was worried people might think I was one of their letter of the alphabet. And then I was convicted.
Yeah.
I said to myself, they ought to be worried they're not my letter of the alphabet, H, not heterosexual, but hypocritical. For why am I standing in this room with my fellow children of God and passing some sort of judgment on them?
Yeah. And I think that in the queer community, when we have those kind of experiences, we call it this internalized homophobia. But that's one of the things I think that a lot of straight people don't realize, that think of themselves as accepting, think of themselves as affirming, but really aren't in queer spaces, can find their sort of homophobic bias exposed when they walk into a space and all of a sudden, like you said, they're afraid that somebody might think they're queer, as if there's something wrong with that, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I exaggerate the story a little bit
for sure.
To make my point. So look, there's debates on is homosexuality a sin? And I'm certainly not in a position to resolve that. But here's what I am in a position to say, that even if it's a sin, what kind of emphasis are we placing on that sin? You know what happens a lot more frequently than homosexual sex is heterosexual sex outside the marriage.
Yeah.
And guess what? We become infinitely clever about how we might justify that type of sex.
Right.
Well, it's natural, it's unavoidable. Maybe it's even necessary experimentation.
Right.
We let the hypocrisy come pouring out.
Right.
And so I always had to say, wait, what are you getting? So if I was, and again, I'm exaggerating my position here for the sake of the argument, but we need to look in the mirror ourselves first. And regardless, we all have sin.
Right.
And so this is, if we believe it's sin, let's assume for the argument that it is, well, it's just like, hey, any other sin that we have. So, I mean, that's just, I can't stand the hypocrisy around the attacks on homosexuality.
Yeah. And to be clear, and nobody that listens to this podcast will be surprised. I completely disagree that it's a sin. And, obviously, when queer people grow up in a place that says that it is a sin to be that, it is damaging at this like deep fundamental level. The trauma around that is awful. And, if a queer young person comes out to their family, and they are rejected by their family or their church community, they're twice as likely to try to commit suicide. But tell me about your experience there.
It's an abomination that people would put that on people like that. It's an abomination.
Yeah. So tell me about your experience at this you called it a gay church.
LGBTQ church.
Yeah, an LGBTQ church. Tell me what that was like.
It was really nice. Well, you know what? For the most part, I couldn't tell the service from a non-LGBTQ church.
Yeah.
It had the same worship. It had, I knew I was in the right place because the pastor got up and said, okay, the queer prom is this weekend and the gay pride parade is this weekend. So I said, okay, I'm in the right place. I know. I'm here. But something beautiful happened there at this church. So during the sermon, pastor says, hey, everyone stand up. We're going to talk about struggling with your relationship with God. All of you are struggling with a relationship with someone. Talk to your neighbor about that. So this young lady, my daughter's age, in her early 20s at the time, said, hey, I'm struggling with my relationship with my dad. He doesn't treat my mom right and all this sort of stuff. And I kind of chuckle. I hate to tell you, you can be in your 50s and struggle with your relationship with your dad, as I well know. And I had a daughter that age. So we chatted a couple of minutes, sat down, pastor resumed the service. But something inside me said, hey, I should talk to this young lady afterwards. I should give her a piece of my mind from the perspective of an adult father with an adult daughter. So I said at the end of service, hey, do you have a few minutes to talk? She said, yes. Fortunately, I abandoned my prepared remarks and we had the most beautiful, intimate conversation about a very intimate relationship in our lives.
Yeah.
And because sometimes I have a difficult relationship with my daughter. And so we had this incredible conversation. And I say, where else can you have this? Two strangers don't know each other, walk in, and in this faith environment, it removes some inhibitions so that we could talk about something so deeply personal. And I know I took something away from it that I, shared with my daughter. And I don't think you're going to get that on the pickleball court. Or on the bar stool next to you. I mean, you can, and those are not bad places. And I've been both places, and had good conversations there. But there's something about this faith element that takes down some inhibitions and allows, great sharing. Yeah. And so that's my whole mission. If you say, hey, what's your mission? I want people to seize the benefit of community worship, but it's got to be in the right place. And you may have to kiss some toads.
Yeah.
Before you find your prince. And undoubtedly you will. There would be some churches that I would not go back to. They were a little bit too severe for my taste. I left the Catholic Church. I'm in a non-denominational Christian church. And I'm not one of these people who say now, oh, the Catholic Church is awful. No one should be Catholic. It's the wrong religion.
Right.
No, when practiced correctly, it can be a great It's a great faith. And I don't begrudge anyone practicing it. It just hasn't worked, didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And my faith and my faith development has thrived elsewhere.
I love that. What about mega churches?
Okay, I definitely steered towards the less than mega churches.
Yeah.
Because of the sense of community.
Yeah.
And that's what you will find. Now, this is a good thing to talk about. Most people have perceptions, hey, churches are these mega churches. They're these big, greedy things. Hey, reality is most churches are very small, less than 100 people going. They don't have 2 nickels to rub together.
Right.
No high-flying pastors or anything like that.
Right.
I love the small churches where it was like, hey, everybody knows each other.
Yeah.
And that was great. And that's what I gravitated to. We have about 100 now that go to my church, and almost everybody knows each other. I did go to a couple of very large churches. Obviously, they try their best to form communities. And I will give them a lot of credit. And I have a friend of mine, some friends go to a real mega church that it's like a football stadium parking lot.
Yeah.
Out there. And they said what they're very intentional about is breaking them up into subgroups, subdepartments. Hey, you're going to get in a group with about 20 people that have some common interest. And so you get to form, that kind of community there. Hey, if that works for you, great.
Yeah.
It didn't work. It doesn't work for me. I'm not.
No, I get that. So tell me, I guess one last question. If somebody who's listening to this is looking for a church, and they're not going to go to 33. What would you say to them is the best way to try to find that community that they're longing for?
Okay. I think the very first thing, I'm going to back up the question a little bit and say, you kind of got to go with an open heart and open mind and try to remove some of these preconceived notions. Because if you think they're too friendly, and if you think they're a cult, if you think they're greedy, you will walk in there and you will gravitate. They'll pass the collection plate.
Yeah.
Say, oh, too greedy. Oh, the people came up and said hi to me, that they're a cult. They want me to join.
Right.
Plus, there's wounding you may have to release.
Yeah.
And I know people have wounding. All I can say in this case is I can tell you that the church community is an incredible virtue. You can find if you can find it. And so I'd liken it to our personal relationships. Many of us have had a partner cheat on us, and that creates a profound wounding and makes it difficult to get with another partner to have that sort of trust. So all I can say is that most people are hopefully able to work past that wounding. And because I know, hey, getting in a relationship, personal relationship is good. So I'm going to try to get over this wounding. For the same reason I say the church community is great, and work through that and try to work through that wounding. So that's the first thing I say. Then I would just say, you can draw the list of attributes, big, small, but in many ways I say, hey, go and search around, because who would have said that Richard would have wound up at a South Asian Indian church or a Black church?
Right.
I would have never said that. I never suspected that. And it was only because I tried and I went in, and in turn, those communities proved to be very welcoming and very loving.
Yeah.
So maybe, it'd be nice to draw a list of attributes, and maybe some, like for instance, I wasn't going to become Muslim, though it's changed. That experience has changed my outlook,
of course,
attitudes towards Muslims, which is, I already had Muslim friends, so it wasn't dramatic, but it did. It spurred a relationship that, an accidental relationship. So this, so I would just say that's, the biggest thing. And then, if I can bring up, there's a couple of things in your podcast that really resonated to me.
Yeah.
And actually, one, I really love what you said, and I've got to put my glasses on. Opposing viewpoints stop sounding human. You said that. And so there's such a cultural war between Democrats, Republicans, those who are Christians and non-Christians, and everybody's co-opted everything. In fact, the Senator Cohens you had on said, wait, Republicans have co-opted faith. But then I would say, you know what? Christian nationalists have co-opted Christianity.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I would say Democrats have co-opted compassion away from Republicans. That, hey, if you're a Republican, that means you hate helping people.
Yeah.
That's the only possible conclusion.
Yeah.
And so there's all these preconceived notions. So I love those podcasts, that and the one on the evangelical terms.
Yeah.
Really powerful and really eye-opening. And what I love that you do is that, you're trying to make people think and expand their perspectives.
Yeah.
Not necessarily maybe tell them what to do or tell them what to do, but that there's something else out there. And when we open our eyes and we open our minds and hearts, we will learn so much.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons I run this thing called Not Church. And, listening to your story about all the different faiths and everything, it's one of the things that I really love about this group, because it's people of all kinds of religious identities and non-identities, like atheists and agnostics and, Buddhists and all these people that are all interested in spirituality, all want to find beliefs and practices that work for them, but are not really there for people telling them that they're going to hell. And so, it's a really beautiful community where it's supportive. There's this posture of learning, but it's got all the things about that people love about church too, like just becoming friends and sharing pictures of your cats and when somebody's going to the hospital, right, that people do energy work or light a candle or say a prayer. And one of the things about that community is that a lot of the people have been manipulated out of money by churches. And so we don't accept donations. It's just $3 a month. And the good thing is, if it doesn't work for you, then you just stop paying. And of course, if somebody can't swing $3 a month, we just let them in for free. But if somebody's interested in that, they can go to patreon.com/skepticpastor. And at patreon.com/skepticpastor, you can sign up for Not Church. But I want to know, where is the best place to find you and to find your book?
Okay. So it's thewanderingworshiper.com. The title of the book.com is my website. Of course, you can find it on Amazon. You've got Kindle and Audible also. And like I said, I just want to encourage people to explore and discover and seize the benefit of community worship. The book is interesting stories. At the end, it doesn't say you got to go get dunked. Right. Or you better walk into church to praise God. Yeah. Actually, that's my big criticisms of the book, is I don't say you got to get dunked, and I don't say you go there to praise God. I said, you show up. And if the community, and whatever community it is what it says it is, it will help you along in your spiritual journey and take you where you need to go or take you down that road. And so that's just my encouragement to people, is that the church community can be very powerfully good. I didn't even get to tell a story about how the church, when I was out of town, that those ladies at the church held my mom's hand until she passed away.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
that's beautiful.
So it's such a virtue. I want people to find it. I realize they've been hurt. I realize it takes searching.
Yeah.
And, but it's well worth it. The reward is well worth it.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. Richard Riccardi. The book is The Wandering Worshipper. So happy to have you on the podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Chairman. I wish you every success in what you're doing.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's it. That's the podcast. Shout out to the Choir Network, to Patheos, to Matthew and Keith, who make everything happen. Now, get out of here. Go do something to make the world a better place. Okay? We'll see you next time.